filmed in 6 different countries, right? And those countries have different access to healthcare and also different healthcare systems. So for example, Germany has a public healthcare system, so it's easier to get things covered. But it's also quite tough to find experts because the country is pretty small, so we don't have many EDS experts. For example, in the United States, there are way more experts. But then again, in the United States, you sometimes don't get it covered and you have to go out of pocket, which we mostly can't because many of us are disabled and just don't have that kind of money. So I would say the US is pretty bad in terms of access to healthcare or to professionals, but then again, it's good in terms of how many experts they have. Otherwise, the countries in Europe are much, much easier to, to get like a wheelchair because it usually is covered 100%. But then again, maybe you won't find a geneticist to diagnose you with EDS because you don't have one. Oh yeah, we have a question over there.
It's a bit related, but I was just wondering how your personal experience with traveling was like, because I know it can be a bit strenuous, and like I just was wondering how it was to do all of that traveling and then like the recovery period for all of that too.
It was pretty tough. There were a couple of times where I had like a shooting in the UK one day, and then I had only like 24 hours break, and then another one the next day. And yeah, I was pretty much way beyond my limits. And I'm kind of used to pushing my body very hard and then pay the price later. So that was an absolute nightmare. And well, then traveling itself, like flying, many times I booked the wheelchair service, so they would get me to the plane and then they would just not show up. One time they forgot me somehow outside, so I almost missed my flight because they were just super, super late. And yeah, there were many of such instances, like cabs, for example, that forgot me somewhere and didn't pick me up, and that caused a lot of additional pain. Sometimes when I came home from shooting for like 3 days or so, I would just lie down for 4 weeks and not move at all. So that was a pretty high price to pay, but kind of worth it. All right, do you want to go?
Have you talked to anybody about getting this like on Netflix or HBO? No, I'm serious because I'm a journalist and I'm all about educating people, and that's been my whole thing. Like I've done stories on my daughter, and I think this is a wonderful film, and everybody in the EDS community wants to see it. But the whole point is we need to educate people, especially, like my son's an EMT, he goes and he picks up people, and the paramedics don't even know what POTS or EDS is. So to educate people is to change things, and I think the only way to do that is to show stories like this. So I'm very serious about it. I mean, I don't know if you have thought about that, if anybody's approached you.
Oh, I did.
But I think it is something you really should look into.
Yeah, so right now I kind of try to get into film festivals, so that's like the first step. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And when this is over, we try to find a professional distributor. But the problem is, for example, Netflix, they don't even talk to you if you don't have like a professional that helps you to do that, and I can't afford that.
Right.
Pretty much spent everything I had for this film. So, but I do know a couple of people that might be able to help me, but that's something we would want to approach maybe a little later this year, probably in autumn or winter.
Yeah, that was my question too, because I'd like to share this with friends and family. As someone who's diagnosed in my early 40s, it's emotional for me to sit here today because it puts all the pieces of the puzzle of my entire life together, and I just want to express my gratitude for that. And yeah, if there's any way we could share this with our healthcare providers, and friends and family, I would love that. So I wish you luck in that, and I hope that works out.
Well, so if it's not going to work out with Netflix, I don't expect that to work out, but then we definitely put it up on a streaming platform, so at some point you definitely can watch it online.
Thank you very
So
much.
that's definitely a plan. Oh, all the way back there.
I'm just curious, I mean, being someone who also knows Ehlers-Danlos and POTS, what do you tend to say to people as kind of a describer? Because I mean, like you were talking about traveling, like being young and needing a wheelchair service while you're traveling is a joke. So, and people
That's
are
true.
like, what's wrong with you? I mean, like, what's kind of your elevator pitch? 'Cause the second I say connective tissue, you just watch their eyes.
Honestly, I don't really have any really useful advice for that because I barely use a wheelchair, pretty much because of what you just said. It's like people don't get it, and sometimes I just try to avoid the hurtful comments and then just force myself to walk. And if I use a wheelchair and somebody says something, I would just say, yeah, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and then they look like, what is that? And you just try to explain, and then at some point they don't say anything anymore.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, all of your work. It's great.
Thank you for coming,
Really appreciate it all.
and thank you for the uplifting messages I have received beforehand. All right, anyone else? Back there?
So how can we leave a review for the movie? Did it seem more fun?
That's such an amazing question. Now, if you liked it or if you didn't like it, I always look for an honest opinion. So you could review it, for example, on IMDb if you wanted to.
Is there any way of donations? Anything like that? Donations or anything like that?
An agent?
Donations.
Oh, donation. I have a donation button on the website, so it's not for me because I want to, so my plan was to support EDS organizations with this film. So if I ever get paid, then I would want to donate this to EDS Awareness. It's a great organization. Probably many of you have used their resources. They have like webinars on their websites with pretty much every expert about EDS and all related conditions. So they have supported the film very, very much, and they also hosted the 2 online screenings we had in the past, which is why I wanted to give something back. And so if somebody wants to donate, that would be nice. Any other organization is fine too. I just wanted to, put it out there. I think you wanted to ask something like a couple of times.
What are some things that you learned from your interview subjects, aside from just their stories? Was there anything you learned that helped you concretely manage your own condition?
Oh yeah, a lot. I mean, they all had kind of similar conditions to mine, but also a little different. So, and also they use maybe different medications in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like lots of advices how to manage my own condition. And then I had no idea about this whole fabricated and induced illness or child abuse claims. I had never heard of that before because I don't have children. And all of them told me that they were accused of child abuse in the past, no matter in which country it was, but I've heard it a lot more in the UK. I don't know if that's coincidence or a pattern, but that was something I definitely wasn't aware of and that I've learned, and that helps me to, help others again and connect people. Oh, all the way back.
Is there a way to find out about getting a copy of the film for distribution at medical schools? For example, I'd like to show this to my students because they're going to go out and be healthcare practitioners. I think that's an audience that would really benefit from seeing something like this.
Yeah.
Or CME, something right, exactly. So they can get into medical education units or some type of classroom grade or some incentive to make students want to learn more about a condition like this.
Yeah, I actually have educational licenses available, so I could, for example, give the film to a medical school or whatever you wanted to use it for, and yeah, that would be pretty simple. I don't have DVDs though, so it would be like a copy on a USB drive or online or somewhere. Okay.
I haven't looked at the website too much, but is there like any resources that people can share for people? I have a daughter who's got, they think, EDS as well as POTS and some other things, and she lives out of state, but she would come back for medical care here. Is there like anybody here who maybe has local resources, or is there somewhere online that I can find resources?
Yeah, there are actually a couple of very, very good websites, and also websites that list medical professionals. So for example, the EDS societies, like the global organization, they have a list of medical professionals in each state. I don't know one specifically here, but I'm pretty sure someone does.
Are you in Orange County or LA?
I'm here, but we can go wherever.
We started
She's
a
out of
small
state.
group in Orange County in like the last 3 months. It's called The Real Zebras of OC. It's on Facebook. I also do email, and we've had over like 120 members in the 3 months that we've started. And we've compiled a physician list a lot of them are for younger kids, but we have started that, so if you want to talk to me after
Yes.
this.
Thank you.
Right, anyone else? Oh, you were waiting. Oh, you start first and then you go next.
My son was mentioning to me, he went to go sit somewhere else because he couldn't sit here anymore, but that it was primarily women or girls in the film. And being that he also has Ehlers-Danlos and POTS, kind of wondering, did you have trouble finding men or boys that were willing to?
That was quite challenging. So for once, EDS seems to be more common in women so far, right? But I did contact a couple of men, and they were a little hesitant to share their story on camera. I didn't ask them why, so but it was really tough to find anyone who would want to open up about it, unfortunately, because I would have loved to share a male perspective. I mean, we had Lucas, which is a little boy. He's pretty severely affected, but other than that, I wanted to have like an adult man as well, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. But maybe there is a chance for another film with maybe only a male perspective. I think she was.
I was just wondering where you got like willing participants and like how you reached out to everyone. I don't have EDS. I have another autoimmune illness, but it was just interesting to see the different types of people that you were able to gather. Because I know, like from my experience, it can be hard to find people like my age or like all the people that I know with the same condition are like older. So it was just interesting how you had both children and then adults. And just, I was wondering how you reached out to so many people.
So I started a German blog a while ago, so I already had some contacts, and I also was part of some support groups, so I already had kind of a network. But then to reach out to people in other countries, I had a lot of help. For example, a German organization and a Belgian organization. They were at a conference, I'm not exactly sure where it was, somewhere in Europe at the same time. And I contacted them and I was like, do you have people I could have in my film? You know, somebody that would work for me with a specific challenge. I was looking for somebody who could tell me something I didn't have seen before. And yeah, so they just reached out to all the people at the conference. We're like, okay, we have someone who wants to do a documentary. Do you want to be part of it? And this is how I got pretty much everyone in the Netherlands and in Belgium and in the UK. And all the other people just came together because I contacted them through different channels. Anyone else?
So you kind of mentioned just now that like a second film. Do you have plans for another film of, you know, on EDS or something to that effect?
I have a couple of ideas for other films. I didn't specifically think about another EDS film because I thought, no, this is out there, and I also know of a few other people who make films about EDS in the future. So there were a couple of other people that talked about a documentary, so I thought maybe wait for those first and then see. But I definitely want to do more about chronic illness, disability, maybe something that's related to EDS. All right.
I also have an autoimmune disorder, but I'm the president of a club on campus called the Chapman University.
Oh, I saw the signs. That's so cool. I love that.
So I was actually wondering if I'd be able to like Skype or like use Zoom to like speak to our club at some point, because I think perspective is very valuable. I think you can watch the film. I know.
Yeah, I would love that.
Here, but I was wondering if that'd be possible.
Yeah, definitely. I can give you my email address, or you just look it up on my website and send me an email.
Thank you.
Where can we find your information?
Yeah. What is your website?
I have a couple of websites. So the official film website is www.r-visible-film.com. So that's the official film website, and then you can also look up Karina-Sturm.com. That's my kind of journalistic portfolio website.
Great work.